What's up, everybody? David from Flash by Vcyclenut here. Continuing testing on the R9. I have the newly updated Toce full system here with the new bracket that doesn't use the foot pegs in any way, so that it shouldn't have any problems if you have aftermarket rear sets. Tow system weighed in at only 9 pounds, so pretty light. The tubes are marked and the collector is marked. Yay! It makes it way easier to put together. It has a spot for 2 widebands, one a little farther downstream of the collector. Yay! Thanks for that, guys. An O2 extender if you need it. It's actually has new gaskets to use, which is one of the few systems that do. Even most of the other systems do not come with gaskets, and a couple different adapters and springs to put it on. So I will get this bolted up on the R9, do some testing and comparing and all that good stuff, get my road mapping and dyno mapping done with it, tell you what I think, and yeah, so far looking good, nice and light. Their canisters are nice and light, made out of aluminum, and so good stuff so far, Toce. Let's see how it does. First thing I'm going to do when installing the Toce exhaust is I'm going to put the new gaskets that go right here. This goes between the primary header and the head itself. You can see this one already came out, which they tend to just do is fall out. These two are still there, so we'll take those out, and then I'll show you a little trick to get the new ones to stay in. If you've ever tried to put these on before, you know they can probably be a little aggravating. You may have used a few colorful words in the past, but I am here to show you how to make all that stop. All you got to do is dip these in a little bit of grease, put a little bit of grease around them, then you push them up against the head, and they will stay there in place while you position all the pipes there. You're welcome. I did misspeak a little bit about the bracket. It is associated with the rear sets, but it is not affected by what rear sets you're running. Let me move my long band or my wideband O2 sensor cable out of the way. So they gave us longer bolts to replace the factory bolts that hold the factory rear sets on, and the bracket goes behind it. I have it installed loose. Whenever you're installing any exhaust, you always want to install everything loosely and then tighten from the back of the bike forward. So many people do it wrong, and it gives you alignment issues, and especially with something like this where it's kind of tight in there. If you tightened everything, if I had already tightened everything, I'm guaranteeing that would not line up. So I got the bracket on nice and loose. Now I'm going to put the canister on, bolt it to that, and then start tightening everything from the back of the bike forward. So far going pretty easy. The Toce is fully mounted on, but back of those bolts where the nuts were a little bit of a pain in the rump to get to, but otherwise went on easily, no issues. Oddly enough, the R9 is a little easier to install an exhaust on than the MT09, which is backwards than normal, because the way the radiator is, you don't have to unbolt it, where on the MT09, you kind of got to unbolt it, swing it out of the way. R9, it's not in the way at all. Woohoo, it kind of makes it nice. So, you know, if you're familiar with Toce, you know one thing, they are loud. I do apologize for repeating a lot of the same little clips from when I tested the Toce with the DNA Stage 2 lid, but I shouldn't assume that everybody has watched that video previously, so I wanted to make sure that information was out there. This is going to compare it or show the results that I got with the stock air box and filter. So let's start with what Manny's R9 Made stock on my dyno, we see almost 110 horsepower and 65 foot-pounds of torque. And these two dyno runs show comparing Manny's R9 all stock with the only change being my flash. And see great improvements and better throttle response. Bike is just way smoother. Second gear is completely fixed. Just a way better, more enjoyable bike after my flash. Let's take a look at what we get comparing the stock pipe tune to the Toce pipe with my flash. So this run shows that the blue line was Manny's stock R9 with my custom mapping for the stock bike, and then the red line shows where it's at now with the Toce full exhaust. The airbox is not listed, which means it's stock, and also my custom mapping specific for the Toce exhaust. You can see again the Toce does add power everywhere, nice gains on top. No place is it below the stock pipe tune. Nice results from building up a system and getting it properly mapped. And that sets a run. Next set of runs show where we started with that almost 110 horsepower to where we are now with almost 119 horsepower and almost 72 pound-feet of torque. The area under the curve is massively different. Up top, just a completely different bike. Again, the mapping, specific mapping done with the street mapping and dyno mapping just makes for a bike that just runs great everywhere, much more fun to ride, much more exciting to ride too. The throttle response now with this combination of my flash and the Toce exhaust really is quite amazing. So let's compare it to a couple other things. Let's compare first the Toce to itself and the difference between the stage 2 airbox lid and the stock airbox. And we get what we normally get. A little bit of loss, if any, on top, which was one showed a little bit of loss on top. Nice gains between 5 and 7 grand. Pretty typical. Again, you know, for me, the R9 is more of a track-oriented bike. To me, on this bike, I'm going to prioritize top-end power. So, you know, I know it's not much of a loss, and there's some gains here. But for me, I on the R9, I'm really liking so far the stock airbox and how it works. So let's compare. The other comparison I wanted to do was between the Akrapovic and the Toce with my specific custom mapping for each, and with the stock airbox. Let's see how they compare. So both these runs were done on the bike. They're about a couple weeks apart. So things that I do to always make sure that runs are as comparable as possible. Make sure it's same back tire, same pressure. I always set the pressure at 35. The chain is properly adjusted and lubricated. I make sure the water temperature is about the same, and I use a gun to check the engine cases temperatures. I prefer to check oil temp, but I don't have a way to simply do that. So next best step is to check the oil or the temperature of the cases so that I can try to get consistent results. All this stuff is really important to make sure that we're comparing apples to apples. When you start changing these things, it makes the comparisons that we do not applicable. So in this case, I feel pretty confident that these are applicable. And what we see is that there's not a lot between them, right? You got some areas down here where the Toce is a little better, and then of course on the top with the larger tubing, the Akrapovic does make about 1.5 more horsepower across the top. Again, for me, I prioritize high RPM horsepower on this bike. So if I'm ultimately looking for at the racetrack and get the most from it, I'd probably choose the Akrapovic. On a street bike, I would say they're pretty wash, and you might actually appreciate this a little bit of extra on the middle and on the bottom. Not sure that you'd really be able to tell the difference between the two riding them, to be honest. As far as the feel, loudness, obviously the Toce is a lot louder than the Akrapovic. So thanks guys for watching. Remember, hit that subscribe and like button for more motorcycle related content. Head on over to Vcyclenut.com for your very best in flashing and motorcycle performance needs. Let's get those R9 set up the way they should be. Get rid of that crappy second gear, and you will not believe how bad the mapping is until you ride it with good mapping. The bike feels pretty good stock, but it is improved significantly with my mapping that is custom for whatever exhaust you might be running. So thanks guys. Remember, appreciate y'all. Keep that dirty side down. Be safe.